What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to XJW Diaries. My name is Justin. So, I have another special interview for you guys today. Start off this new year with a bang. This is a powerful one. This interview is with somebody that I met at the XJW protests back in October. And in fact, I actually had an opportunity to hang out with her a little bit at the event after the protest. Actually, she brought me this really good catfish dinner. And, while I was sitting there eating with her, listening to the music at the event, I had no idea that she had been through this much stuff. In fact, it's so much, I kind of had a hard time even knowing what to title this video. But the one thing that definitely stuck out in her story is the shunning of children. Keep in mind that most of the events that she talks about in this interview happened before she turned 18 years old. So it just goes to show how much this organization can impact someone through those growing stages. So I really hope you guys enjoy this interview. It's definitely a heavier one. I'm not even an emotional person that much, and there's definitely parts during her story that really caught me off guard. I had to hold back some tears a little bit. So hope you guys enjoy this. This is Valissia's story. How did you get involved with the witnesses in the first place? Were you raised in it? Did you come into it later in life? How did you get involved in this?
Okay, well, pretty much raised in the organization. My mom, actually, my mom's sister, my aunt, she introduced my mom to the Jehovah's Witnesses back in the 70s, and my mother, she got baptized when I was 4 or 5 years old. I think mother said she got baptized in 74. Yeah, 74. So I was 5 years old in 74, either 4 or 5 in 74, depending on when she got baptized. And so that's all I ever knew. I didn't start school until I was in the first grade. So I actually started school as a child of a witness. And like I said, that's all we knew. So grew up in it. And at first, because my mother, she had lived, quote unquote, that worldly lifestyle. I remember at the house we grew up in, they had like those wood panels, the wood paneling for walls. And me and my sister, we would go to each panel and knock on each panel like it was a door, like we were going out in field service. And we would laugh because we would pretend people would slam the door in our faces. And who would find that funny? But, but witness children. But anyway, so we would knock and offer them the magazines, each panel in our row. That was a game we played growing up. And then eventually, like I said, my mom, we went to the congregation in Houston, North Congregation in Houston. And that congregation has since been dissolved. But that's where we went, and grew up in it, going to school with my cousin. Oh my God, that boy would lie on us as sure as the sun would come up. He'd lie, oh, I saw them eating holiday candy or whatever it was. And my mom, because she would tend to believe, well, why would they lie? My mom, she would whoop we didn't get no whoopings. Whoopings would be a relief. We got beatings. And so much so, like I said, Lord rest my mama's soul in peace. I'm not trying to run her down. She just did the best she knew how to do. She was an excellent provider, but she was a very strict disciplinarian. And anytime somebody packed something to the house saying we did or we didn't, she never listened to what we were saying. She took their word for gospel, and we got in trouble for it. And never forget, at one point when, like I said, she would whoop us, it would just be, beatings were just horrible. And so one time, my mom, she whooped us with an extension cord. So I had like the welts on my back, and so they were healing. And so when they were healing, they would itch. And so, I would try to, rub my back up against stuff to try to, scratch it. And so one of the scabs broke, and I started bleeding and got on my shirt. And so the teacher was like, well, go to the nurse's office, have them put a Band-Aid, on it. And I went to the nurse's office. Of course, she, raised my shirt up to put a Band-Aid on it. She saw all the welts on my back. She saw all the welts on my sister's back. And sure enough, CPS took us. Not one time, but on 2 different occasions, CPS came and got us. And it was actually an elder, the presiding overseer. I guess they call him the Kobe now, but he was the presiding overseer at the time. He actually came to court to testify on my mother's behalf. And so, like I say, after the long process, long story short, we were back at home with my mom after a little while, but she would always tell everybody that I told the CPS people a sob story, and that's why they took us. Like, no, CPS don't take you for no proof. The kids get killed right now, staying with their parents because CPS do not try to take children out of the home. But so that's that was that's why I can relate to that thing going on in Japan, as far as them talking about the beatings and stuff. And even growing up, you see the kids who get taken outside, for whatever reason, because you can't expect a 3-year-old, 4-year-old to sit still for 2 hours or longer. But and then, oh my God, at the meetings, now the Wednesday night meeting was the hardest because you've been in school all day. You got to come home, do your homework or whatever chores, and then you're supposed to stay awake for another 2+ hours at a meeting. And if we fell asleep, my mom would make us stand up in the middle of the aisle to be a spectacle, to say, okay, you're not going to go to sleep, here at the Kingdom Hall. So you only do that a few times, so you don't want to be embarrassed. And of course, the other kids, what are they going to do? They're going to laugh at you. And so now, I just go to the meetings, highlight, answer, you're supposed to study your watchtower. I didn't read it. Nope. Ain't reading nothing. I'm just going to highlight, I'm going to go through it and, answer. Read the question, write, underline the answer and get it over with quick so I can, get on to something else. But spend a lot of the time at the meetings daydreaming. That's what I did at the meetings, daydream. And, I can't even really remember if we went through I want to become a publisher. So here are the questions we're going to ask you. I don't remember going through that. I just remember, always going on in field service and, then I was a publisher, I can't say that I remember that process, being as I'm as young as I am now. But anyways, I can't remember doing that, but I guess maybe we did. I don't know. But I remember going to the assemblies and hearing the experiences I remember as young as a 5-year-old getting baptized, and everyone talking about, oh, I want to serve Jehovah, and I want to, be a pioneer, and and I just never had that desire. That's not what I wanted to do. I remember being in school. I love history, really, really big history fan. And I that's not what that was never my desire. My desire, I wanted to go to school. I want to go to college, and I wanted to be an attorney. That's really what I wanted to do with my life. But I had no inkling, no desire, no nothing, to become one of Jehovah's Witnesses or the pioneer. And my mom, we were stay-at-home kid. We had to stay at home because my mom was a single parent. So the summertime, she was like, y'all need to go out and field service, and y'all need to pioneer. And, so we would have to walk to the Kingdom Hall in the Texas summer sun, get to the Kingdom Hall, especially on a Monday through Friday. It'd only be 1 or 2 people there, and they're not trying to be bothered with 2 kids, But like I said, made it through that struggle. But eventually, I was in middle school, and it wasn't the worldly kids that were the problem for me. Going in elementary school, it was hard enough not being able to celebrate the holidays. But then eventually they came out with that school brochure. I don't know if you're Jehovah's Witnesses in school or something. It was the school brochure that they called it. And not that made life any better for me, but that the kids at school, they weren't the issue, because I was always a really smart kid. So I always got really good grades. And so for whatever reason, I was going to have a worldly friend that was going to want to study with me. And if the guys that want to do nothing but copy off of me, but they, they weren't the issue. The problems I always had was with the other witness kids. I kind of was, believe it or not, kind of was introverted in that respect. But when I was in middle school, I went to school with 3 other witness kids, and one of them was an elder's daughter. And they were my tormentors. I absolutely, positively, with every fiber of my being, hated going to school because of them. It wasn't the other kids. It really wasn't. They weren't the issue. The issue were the witness kids. The issues was, when I went to school with my cousin, he was the issue. Growing up, as far as whether it was just him being we were really close in age, and so whether it was just him being his hormones or whatever, the old unwanted touching thing. And then when I didn't want him to touch me, it became, well, I'm going to tell your mama this. And of course I was going to get in trouble. And I suffered a lot behind rejecting his unwanted attention and dealing with other witness students. And I absolutely hated it. Totally hated it.
Sorry to interrupt. This was your cousin that was giving you that unwanted attention?
Yeah.
That just shows that sexual repression culture, and makes people do weird things.
It truly does.
Yeah.
No, don't. But why are you saying that? Because in the XJW community, you hear different ones talk about this sexual repression thing going on. And my thing is, what do you expect with raging hormones? You say not to do your own self-stimulation kind of thing. Kids are going to be kids, and so in that respect, if you keep telling them you just repress everything in your body, that's not even natural. You can't have a boyfriend like little girls, little boys, they want to say their boyfriend or girlfriend. You're asking them to go against what is naturally within them, and instead of finding healthy ways for them to deal with what's going on with them, you're telling them something that's completely against what's built in the DNA, but put a little pin on the little Chester molester cousin there. We're going to be back to him in 2005. We'll get back to him. But anyway, so I got to high school. Let me give you a little funny story first. When I was in middle school, the three witness girls that I went to school with, for some reason, I think I may have mentioned something to my mother about something unknowingly, and she went and told one of the parents, whatever I said. And so, well, then all three of them wanted to come and beat me up, right? And so you talk about saved by the bell, literally. But I was, because I could probably take on one girl, but I couldn't take on three people. So, I am sweating like raining. Okay. I'm sweating so bad. I got the sweat stains down. They're all the way under my arm. And so all of them, literally, they got me. So all three of them, in front of me. And I said, my water broke. That's what I told them. My water broke. See, and I started pointing under my arms because I didn't even know what it meant. I didn't know it meant you were in labor. But that's what I told them. Anyways, I told them my water broke. And no sooner than I told them that, and they kind of looked at each other, and the bell rang to start class, go to school. So that was a little funny story. That's how I got out of that one. But eventually moved on to high school. Well, at high school, I was by myself. I didn't have nobody, no witness this or nothing. It was just me. And so I was like my first year of high school, and I got a little rebellious. I would skip a class or two, but I always had good grades. So I could, dump a class here, dump a class there. And so I had met this guy, and that was my little boo, my little boyfriend, what have you. And so we skipped school and, went off in just a day of heavy petting. No, nothing beyond that. And so I can't remember how my mama found out, but she found out and took me to the elders. And when I learned on what other people say, when they ask you all these extremely detailed, invasive questions about what happened, it was so uncomfortable. I felt violated. I truly did. Why are you asking me questions? Well, where did he put his hand? Where did you put your hand? Did you enjoy it? Did you, it felt really cringy. it didn't feel normal. It just didn't feel normal. I have never forgotten that. And I think I was like 12, 13 years old. I have never forgotten that. It was absolutely the most uncomfortable, invasive, violating thing I think I've ever experienced. Next to my cousin. I mean, they're literally neck and neck. Those two events in my life, as far as JW culture, I would not wish that on my worst enemy. It was horrible. But anyway, so we go through the whole thing, and when it was all said and done, I was made an unapproved associate. And which, for anybody who don't know, because I don't know if they changed it later on, an unapproved associate is just another way of disfellowshipping an unbaptized person. So at that point, I'm bad association. And I can't remember how long I was out, but it was the worst feeling I've ever had.
And do they announce that?
Yeah. Yeah. You get announced.
Just
It's just like, yeah. Yeah, it's just like you're disfellowshipped, except you're not baptized. And so that's the way that they quote unquote disfellowship an unbaptized publisher. And so it was like, oh my God, this has got to be, and then being at home, my mama, she was already, oh, I'm so embarrassed. Here you are, unapproved associate, all the stigma that goes with being this unapproved associate. And, life at home was horrible. The Kingdom Hall was horrible. I just had to navigate through it. So I get back reinstated and I'm going about my business or whatever. And I guess about maybe 2-3 years later, the presiding overseer, the same presiding overseer that helped my mom when she was dealing with CPS and all that, his daughter was getting these prank phone calls. And the prank phone calls were, they were getting worse and worse. They were scaring her, and this is back in the day before Star 69 and all that stuff where you could, track a call and stuff. And so the elder put some type of recording device on the phone, and he was recording the voice of the prank phone caller and everything, because this is really disturbing his daughter. And he just, he's, of course, as a father, he's trying to find out who's doing it, what's going on. So then he had everyone, trying to come and listen to the recordings to see if they could identify the voice. Well, old Chester molester cousin, he says, it sounds like, my middle name's Annette. He goes, it sounds like Annette to me. And so, of course, then he calls my mom and says, hey, could you come and listen to this recording? I'm trying to find out who this is. And so my mom, she listens to it. Me and my sister listen to it. And like, my mom's like, that's not my daughter. And I just said it wasn't me, but like I said, being one of Jehovah's Witnesses is not one of those things that it doesn't make you confident, because anything that you accomplish is not really your credit to take. So I was never really confident. Self-esteem just was not where it should have been for someone at my age, where it should have been. But anyways, so my mom was like, that's not my daughter. And we only had one phone in the house, and most of the time it stayed in my mom's room. And it wasn't any way for us we didn't have another phone in the house. This is way before, probably even before you were born, Justin. But, you had that one phone, and if you were doing really good, you had a phone cord that had a really long cord, where you could take the phone wherever room you wanted to. But my mom always pretty much kept the phone in her room. So it was no way we could just be sneaking and making phone calls in the middle of the night, harassing somebody. And my mom was like, that doesn't sound like my daughter. And I said once or twice, it wasn't me. I mean, what was I supposed to say? It wasn't me. But, you did a video when you first started your channel about kind of like the hierarchy in the congregation. And we were at the bottom because my mom's a single mom with 2 kids. But, my cousin and my aunt's kids, you got the Bethelite, you got the Pioneer daughter, you got they're kind of up there, up really mobile in their congregation, because we went to the same Kingdom Hall, just different congregations. And because, well, he said it sounded like her. Well, guess what? I was made I got into some little scuffle at school. It wasn't even anything really big. But my mom, she was, like I said, JW police. She took me to the elders, and that was the only excuse that elder needed, who shouldn't have been on my committee meeting. They made me an unapproved associate again. This time it didn't go so well for me because it was a mental hell the first time. Second time wasn't really good. It was towards the summertime. So of course now you're really not interacting with anybody because you can't, at home is hell, and you don't have that outlet of school or anything. All you have is going to the Kingdom Hall, and you're sitting your ass at home, so you can't do nothing. And it just was it was too much for me to take. And it was right before school was going to let out, and I knew my mom had these pills that made her really sleepy. And I took the entire bottle of those pills. She had came up to the school to address the situation that I had gotten into at school. And I knew my mom, she clown you wherever you was. So I took the pills. I went down to the principal's office where she was. And by the time I don't even know how I got down to the principal's office. The principal wanted to call, the story that I got later on, is the principal wanted to call the ambulance because I was pretty much a done deal in the principal's office. My mom managed to take me home, and she called the ambulance from home. And I ended up in the hospital, in Texas Children's Hospital for some time. And, all I would tell anybody this. Watch your children and watch what you expose them to and who you expose them to. Give me a minute. When a person or any living anything loses the will to live, that is the most basic instinct in any living thing, is the will to live. And when you lose that, there's something really wrong. And for suicide to be a big thing in this religion, the way it is, they're not offering the hope that they think they're offering. I don't even know how I made it through that period. I do remember, and especially at that time, seeing psychologists or anything like that was so taboo at that time. Of course, having attempted suicide, that was the first thing. She has to see some mental health. She has to seek some type of mental health treatment. We went to one session, Justin, one. And I never forget, the lady asked me, how are you feeling? And I told her, I said, I'm not okay. And my mom interrupted, well, that can't be what you're feeling. You serve Jehovah God, and we have the hope of the resurrection. And my mom talked the whole time. I never answered another question. That was the only session I ever went to. And I couldn't tell you how I made it from that day until the day I left my mother's house. But, the mental health aspect of this religion is devastating. Shunning children is not normal. It's not loving. It's just wrong. And in the Netherlands, where they pretty much lost their license as an official religion because of the half-truth that Tony Morris stated as their policy on shunning. He didn't tell the whole truth of the policy of shunning baptized children, even unbaptized children at that time. It's not normal. It's not healthy. Children, need to know that they're loved. Children are going to make mistakes. Children cannot make lifetime commitments to entities that they can't really see, that they don't really know, to make those lifetime commitments. We don't allow children to enter contracts for a reason. And, children making this lifetime commitment at 8, 9, 5 years old. It sounds like the Scientologists when they try to force the children into 1,000-year contracts. That's not normal. And I don't think, I think people really need to stop and look and research what this religion is really about. But I'm going to have to get past that part right there because I don't want to have a bad day the whole day. I got more depressing shit to talk about. But anyways, moving right along. I managed to get back reinstated and doing my little...
Can you talk about the reinstatement process a little bit? Just because
the reinstatement
heard of...
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Even as far as even as far as the unapproved associate process, it kind of goes the same way that this fellowshipping process goes. You have your committee meeting with 3 elders, and once they decide they're going to disfellowship you, then you get to appeal within, I think it's a week. You got 7 days to appeal. And then I did the second one. I did appeal because I didn't feel like I had done anything that was, a big deal. I appealed the second one, and I have to admit that my mother supported me because she didn't feel like even though she turned me in, she didn't think it was a big deal as far as a disfellowshipable offense. But see, the presiding overseer, he sat on the committee meeting, and because Chester Molester cousin told him he thought it was me calling his daughter, that's why I got disfellowshipped. And of course, if the presiding overseer says, well, I think she needs to be disfellowshipped, the other 2 are going to follow. Mm-hmm. And so I got disfellowshipped. And then for the reinstatement process, I can't remember. I want to say it was 6 months that time, 6 months, because I'm going to tell you how it was 6 months, because the presiding overseer found out who was actually pranking his daughter. He found out, guess who it was? It was another witness who was supposedly her best friend. Yeah, supposedly her best friend was prank phone calling her, and I just thought it was a joke. How could you think it was a joke and it was causing her all that mental duress? Mm-hmm. But yeah, so that's how that worked out. But anyway, so I think like 6 months later, you submit a letter, tell them you want to be reinstated, and you sit down, have a little, come to Jesus with the 3, and then you get reinstated and they announce you. So that's how that goes.
Wow. So at this point in your story, you're still not baptized yet.
I ain't baptized. Not been kicked out 2 times.
Wow.
So, yeah, and I've been unapproved associate twice. So of course I got the label. I am real bad association. I'm real bad news. Yeah. And so of course, how the religion is. You can't associate with the worldly kids, and really the elders' kids be the worst ones. They be worse than the worldly kids half the time. And so, I'm going to school, and at this point, it's getting a little bit better because most of the kids at my Kingdom Hall, they drop out of school. The going got tough. They dropped out of school. And so it got a little bit easier because I'm not going to school with all these, oppressive kids. And then by the time as they're getting older, they're getting into their dirt. And as long as I don't say nothing about their dirt, they ain't worried about me, because they busy doing what they doing. And so, like I said, now I know my cousin got in trouble, with one girl at his Kingdom Hall. I know he did, but because, she was an elder's daughter, and, they were considered, i.e., spiritual family on his side of the congregation, then, he didn't get any type of discipline. Even the girl who was pranking the presiding overseer's daughter, she didn't get any type of discipline. If she did, it was behind the scenes. Okay. Because I was about the only kid that was always announced on stuff, as far as, the 2 times I did. I remember this other dude, but it was later on. So, And by this time, I'm just really kind of like, okay, I gotta just kind of keep it together so I can get out the house. So meanwhile, I'm going to school, getting good grades, and boom, I get an offer from Morgan State University for a full scholarship, and I'm excited because I want to go to college. That's what I wanted to do, and it's like, go to college. You gotta serve Jehovah. You gotta be a pioneer, and you know, um, and when it came down to proms and stuff, our my generation or my class of kids, we were the first ones where oh no, you don't want to go to the prom. So didn't get to go to the prom, all the typical stuff associated with high school, none of that. And so there goes that full ride, because of course my mom, she's not going to have me take my SAT. She's not anything to do that's going to prepare me for college. She wasn't doing, because as she said, there ain't no child of mine going to college when they can be serving Jehovah. So that's what a Black parent who grew up in the Jim Crow South, said that. And whenever I tell people that story, they get the craziest look on their face, like, what parent would not want their child to go to college, especially with a full ride? But that is the life of a Jehovah's Witness. So I thought, okay, I'm going to wait till I turn 18 and get baptized. That's what I'm thinking in my head. Because by then, I'm a late bloomer. You wait till 18 to get baptized. You don't know you want to serve Jehovah before then. And I knew I didn't, but it was kind of like, well, I'm going to have to go to work. And so, I'll pioneer sometimes, never pioneered. I never, ever pioneered. I can't even say I got 10 hours a month. I probably got an average of about 4 hours a month and wrote 10 every month on that paper. But so I get to high school, and I graduated with highest honors. I was number 16 out of a class of over 300 students, highest honors, top 10%. I think it's top 5% actually that I was in, and managed to graduate high school. And okay, I'm gonna tell y'all the year, 1987. I graduated. So I graduated in 87, and I got baptized. You ain't gonna believe the day I got baptized on, at the summer convention, July the 4th. 1987. There went my independence on that day. I got baptized, and I thought that maybe I would feel something after the baptism. But little funny story, whenever they baptize you, you have to be totally submerged in the water. So when they dipped me in the water, my foot came out of the water. And so I often say, so much sin, they had to dip me again. But I guess, anyways, I had to get re-dipped. So they dipped me again. And so I thought that, well, after I get baptized, well, surely I'll feel something different. And I didn't. I didn't feel anything. I just felt like I was forced to do what I had to do to, get to where I had to get. And so, they paint the world, the outside world, as this bad place full of bad people. And it's going to be so hard because you're not going to have Jehovah's Spirit. And the reality is, it's no different for any other 18-year-old, 19-year-old, whoever gets out. It's no different. It's the same people out there. Those people are not going to, what parent raises their child to be a serial killer? None. So it's not, every parent's trying to raise the best child they can raise to go out and be as productive as they can in society. I mean, you have your different people, different personalities, but, you're not talking about people who are, raising, quote unquote, these crazies to go out there and just prey on people. And, really you get out there and you meet people in life, and people are, who you meet and what you make of them. And so my very first job was at a bank, and I met one of my dearest friends, Amanda, working at the bank, and a really sweet person. Absolutely adored her, still do to this day. And I met a witness, at that job. And I'm going to tell you this quick little story about the witness. Absolutely adore her, still do. Well, my mother passed away this past July, and my mother didn't want a big funeral or anything. And so I did like a memory card with her pictures, and I sent it to different ones. And I sent it to this particular sister who I worked with all those years ago. And I still talk to, infrequently over the years. Well, the last time I had saw her before my mother passed, I was telling her about the Australian Royal Commission and the really bad child molester CSA problem that they have in the organization. And she's like, "Oh, I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it." She was just really vehemently about not wanting to hear it. And of course, the first thing, well, they have molesters in other religions. I mean, she just was really just totally against hearing me say anything about them. So she got the card about my mom, but I noticed she didn't call me, and that just didn't seem right. So I'm like, I wonder if she got the card. Maybe I sent it to the wrong address. So I'm friends with her sister on Facebook, and I asked her if her sister knew about my mom. And so the very next morning, I get a text, and she was like, well, I did. She said, I did get the card, and I realized your mother had passed, but I just didn't know if I should reach out to you because you were saying bad things about Jehovah. And I'm like, wow. My mama was a witness for 49 years. 49 years. And your faith and your conviction is so shaky, you can't even extend your condolences. Do you think in my hour of sorrow, outside of honoring my mother's wishes, that I would be concerned about running down that sorry ass religion? This is what my thought process was, because I really I didn't give two oomph about that religion. I lost my mom, and outside of honoring her wishes within her religion is all I was really concerned about, not running her religion down. I promised my mom before she passed, I would try to look and see if this was the true religion. And when she was in her complete right mind, I said, Mama, I will look to see if this is the right religion. I said, but if I don't think it is, or if I can't find anything to support that it is, I'm telling my story to everybody. And I meant that. And that's why I'm talking to you guys today. But anyway, she could not extend her condolences during my hour of sorrow. And if I believe in a God, if I believe in this, in the universe or a higher power, a higher being, based on what your Bible says, God is love. And you can't even do a loving thing and extend your own condolences to someone who not only she knew me personally and my mother personally, but because I didn't say anything about God, say anything about Jehovah God. I said something about this religion. I also, at the time, the last time that we had talked, I had also said that was right when Stephen Lett had made that comment about children being little enemies of God. I was telling him, like, well, that's what he said. It was a fact. He said that, it wasn't taken out of context. He said, children can be considered as little enemies of God. Simple as that. You can look that up on JW.org. I ain't say that. The ARC, okay, since you're too afraid to go and look at anything else, okay. But children being little enemies of God, okay, you can look that up yourself. But that really, I mean, when I tell you, that gave me a really, really bad taste, and like I said, more about that later, but moving right along. But I met my dearest friend, Amanda, at my job, my first job at the bank. And man, I mean, it was, she was everything. She was air. Amanda was air. So meanwhile, I'm working at the bank. I'm living at home. I'm now baptized. And I meet this guy working in downtown Houston. I meet this guy, and guy's really nice, really sweet guy. Because, ain't nobody going to talk to me at the Kingdom Hall because, who's going to talk to me? And I done had the bad association label 2 times. Okay. But anyways, handsome dude talking to me. He's taking me to lunch. He's sending me flowers. He's sending me balloons, all the things that a girl with, with no experience with a guy as far as how he's supposed to treat her. He's pushing all the right bells, and long story short, I got pregnant and I got afraid because I didn't know what I was going to do. And I told him, I'm like, I can't have this baby. And he was like, why? And I started telling him about my religion, and I got afraid, Justin, because all I could remember was dying. And I remember that feeling of not knowing what happened for days, when I tried to take my life. I got really afraid. I'm like, okay, I don't want to be disfellowshipped. I can't go through that again. I don't know if I'll make it. I can't go through that again. So I told my mom, I think I told her I had to work on a Saturday. And I met the guy, and we went, had the procedure done, whole 9 yards. And my mom, she could always tell when it was that time of the month for me, because I go through a million other products. So she knew something wasn't right. And sure enough, she found out, turned me in to the elders. I was disfellowshipped again. But that's not the part that hurts me. The part that hurts me is I was so afraid I took the life of my own child. I took the life of my own child because I was afraid of this religion. And I have tried so hard to try to work through that. It was a lot of years therapy, working through that. And I have a daughter who I absolutely adore. And I cheated myself because I was afraid of being disfellowshipped. And I got disfellowshipped anyways. No one should be afraid in making a decision about their own offspring. If, whether I'm pro-life, this is not that issue. My issue is a woman should always have the right to choose based on her own convictions, based on her own well-being, based on her own thoughts, her own beliefs, but not out of fear of some man-made construct where they can treat you in a way that would make you want to take your own life. They caused me to almost lose my life. And I felt like I felt forced into a situation where I took the life of my own child. And I don't ever want any other person to live in that fear. Walk away. Walk away from anything that would put you in a situation where it's a life or death thing. The blood issue, all these different things where it's easy for them to say, well, you got to do it for Jehovah. No, you're saying what I'm supposed to do for a God that you don't know if I believe in or not. I don't believe a God that I would serve would put me under the duress of having to say, okay, I choose death. You know, here's a procedure to save my life. I choose death. When the creator of life gave me the very instinct to want to live. It's if how can we sit up here and go against what is naturally built in us if you believe in creation? If you believe in creation if you believe in that, how can you be okay with a rule that says you can't do anything that will preserve your life or the life of your children? If I don't want to get anything else out in this interview, I want people to know there is no God, there's no entity, there's no organization, religion, anything that says you are responsible to this omnipotent being that will require you to sacrifice your life, your well-being, the life of your children, based on some other man saying it. Every time you talk about cults, there's always a death thing involved. You know, the Heaven's Gate cult, the Jonestown deal, the Branch Davidians in Waco. It's always some type of apocalyptic death thing. It's always death. You know, it's never choose life. It's never choose happiness. It's always sin and sorrow. It's never, it's never some type of, in the moment life of living and living life on your terms and, being happy. It's always you got to put it off. It's just not, I can't even think of another word besides it's not normal. It's just not normal. If it goes against what is innately in a human being, I cannot find the right words in this interview to sit here and say, okay, if God gave you the desire to mate, if God gave you the desire to live, why would all the rules that you're required to live by go against those very basic desires? Very basic. I mean, this is not, some kind of abstract thing. This is, everybody kind of wants to live. Everybody kind of wants to be loved. Why can't we just do that? But
I think you said it perfectly. Mm-hmm. They're telling us to go against our human instinct.
Yeah.
That if you believe in a God that designed us in a perfect way, a perfect God designed us in a perfect way, then those instincts are there for a reason. So if your religion is telling you that they represent this God, but they're telling you to go against these natural instincts that are in everybody, there's something wrong there.
Yeah, that's really all I can say. It seems like it would be some type of eloquent way to say it, but that's really the basic way of saying it. That's just that. But back to my story, back to our regular scheduled program. I got, after all that happened, I got reinstated. And then came the point, I was still working at the bank, and they had this event at work, but it was on a weekend. Well, of course, always the bad association, the worldly people. And I was still living at home, and I wanted to go. I wanted to go. And my mother said, if you go, I'm going to put you out of my house. I went, and she put me out. And out of all the things that old woman put me through, that is the one thing I thank her for. If my mother was standing right here next to me, and I've told her before, I never had an issue with that. I don't know if I've bought it up as much as 2-3 times in my life with her, because I think it was the best thing, because they have this fear. They have you this fear. They put this fear in you of the outside world. And once you have to get out in it, it's kind of like the bird that pushes the little baby bird out of the nest, and the baby bird has to fly or hit the ground. And I flew, I flew. But what I did, when I did manage to fly, old Chester molester cousin, by then he's married, and he has a little rental house. And so that's the first, hey, can I rent your little spot? And he let me rent the little spot. But he was trying to dictate what I could and couldn't do in his house, which where I paid rent. I didn't stay there very long. And like I said, because his family had, i.e. the spiritual label, I guess I was making him look bad on the spiritual level. I don't even know. But it wasn't like I was going to the Kingdom Hall where he was going. I was barely going where I was supposed to go. But anyways, I moved, got my own spot and everything. And, I married a guy who, he was raised in the truth, but he wasn't baptized. And at that point, I was pretty much one toe in the Kingdom Hall and the whole rest of me outside. I was living life. And, everything. I did any and everything. I went to movies, and I never forget the first R-rated movie I saw was Coming to America. That was the first R-rated movie I ever saw. And it has a special place in my heart to this day. Even saw Coming to America 2. That was one of my favorite movies because it's the first R-rated movie I ever saw. But movies, travel, you name it, I did. I was up in these streets. I was doing my thing. I enjoyed it. Life is about learning. You make mistakes. You do good things. You do bad things. You go up. You go down. The whole 9 yards. But I can't sit here and say I have any regrets. I've had a couple of hard times. This with life. I've had a hemorrhagic stroke where I had bleeding on the left side of my brain. To look at me, you can't tell, mostly, but yeah, I've had a stroke, the whole 9. But it wasn't because of bad living, just because of stress. Stress and unregulated blood pressure. That's what that was. I was pursuing my education, which I had to pay for, which Wash Tire should be paying. Pursuing my education and trying to work full time, and mom and wife at the time, and all those things collided, and I had a stroke. But me and my daughter, we're doing just fine. I'll say this before I forget. I don't want to dog out the people in it, as far as the people in the organization. There's some really wonderful people. Very kind people, people who really think that they are serving the true God in the right way. They believe that. And, if that's, if they may enter that quote unquote contract, knowing the good, the bad, and the ugly, okay, that's their choice. But I don't want to dog out the people, because the people are really good people. I just think they've just found themselves in the wrong religion. I'll just say that. But anyways, like I said, I had my daughter, and the one thing I want to say, I can't remember Barbara. Her name's Barbara Anderson. I want to say this to Barbara and for her. When I got pregnant with my daughter, and my mom, it was so funny. My mom was like, well, you're not married, and you don't want to just be telling everybody about your daughter. And I was just like, do you think I care about anybody at your Kingdom Hall in regards to my kid? I really don't. And no sooner than I had her, my mother was like, can you send a picture too? And was talking about everybody at every Kingdom Hall she ever went to, trying to send her a picture of her grandbaby. And Barbara Anderson has been deprived of her grandchildren. For someone who walked, quote unquote, the spiritual path and went to Bethel and all the stuff that she did to have that taken from her being a grandparent. My mother, my mother was an excellent provider. Her childhood trauma dictated, how she disciplined and how we did. She thought she was doing the right thing. But if I can say anything, my mother was an absolutely amazing grandmother. She loved my daughter from the top of her curly hair to the bottom of her little flat feet. For this religion has separated so many grandparents from their grandchildren. And having friends who have grandchildren. I ain't a grandmother yet. I don't want nobody up here doing my baby pregnant. My baby is not pregnant. She up at school getting her education on. But anyways, but to deny grandparents access to their grandchildren is such an injustice. And I think because those people sitting up in New York who don't have children and who don't have grandchildren, they don't know what they're, the ties that they're breaking. Because in the end, it's always, they're not going to give you no money. They're going to tell you to go to those same family members you've been shutting off or shunning for decades. That's where they're going to direct you. I feel so bad because my aunt, her son died, I think it was during COVID. He died a couple of years ago. And he had been disfellowshipped since I was a kid. I mean, I'm talking like 7, 8 years old kid. And he just died recently. And all those years of love that she didn't get to give to her son directly all the time, a full force, being there for her son throughout the ups and downs of his life, only, touching bases here and there. I think that's absolutely horrible, because he made a decision that he no longer wanted to live in this religious construct, and when it happened, I remember talking to my aunt, and she said she didn't think it was going to hit her as hard as it did. How can it not? How can you break a bond of a mother and child? How can you not feel that visceral hurt of a parent burying a child? This religion, if they did not break up families, they wouldn't try to sugarcoat that shit on JW.org, because that's exactly what they do. I was blessed. My mother, she took to grandparenting like a fish to water. And that was a wonderful thing for my baby and for my mother. Before my mother, the last person that my mother talked to where she was fully in her right mind before the hospice meds kicked in was her granddaughter. She knew who she was talking to. She adored that child. And for that, I am truly grateful. That is the one thing that they did not take from my mother or my daughter. I'm very, very fortunate in that respect, because so many have lost that. The ladies that helped me care for my mother, because my mom lived near Houston. I live in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So it's about a 3-hour drive. And so I couldn't come down all the time. I broke my knee at one point, just the back and forth of taking care of an aging parent. It can be really hard. But when it's also, and it was hard on those ladies as well. They were so self-sacrificing. They were so kind. 2 wonderful human beings. They really, 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 really are. But like I say, during a period of time, before, my daughter was small, I decided to, and I tell you how to put a pin in old Chester molester cousin. It was 2005. And I had talked to my mom about it, and I told her about it, and she was supportive. And my sister, who he did the same thing to as well. My sister said, well, do you need me to come down in support of you? Well, if I had known I needed a witness, I'd have told her yes. But anyway, so I told the person who I spoke to directly was his sister's husband, an elder. So I spoke to, quote unquote, my cousin's husband, the pioneer, my aunt's daughter, her son-in-law. He was an elder. I told him, hey, this is the deal. Just, I need to get this off my chest. This is something that's bothered me. I've therapy, the whole 9 yards. So basically, Chester Molester's brother-in-law gets him to come. We meet at the park, Conroe Park. And, hey, this is what happened, blah, blah, blah. We go back and forth. And his response was, well, don't you remember doing this? His response was, well, anything's possible. He didn't say, yes, he did it. He didn't say, no, I didn't do that. He says, well, anything's possible. He would not apologize. He wouldn't acknowledge. He wouldn't confirm. He wouldn't deny. He did. I guess you want to say he did a Dave Chappelle. He pled the fifth. He didn't even really do that. He just says, well, anything's possible. I was dumbfounded. I sat there and I cried like a baby. And the cousin that was officiating, not Chester Molester cousin. Chester Molester cousin, he had done gone on about his business. I don't even know if the whole thing took 15 minutes. He had gone on about his business. Had I known I needed a witness, I'd asked my sister to come. But anyways, that's the last time I've talked to him, seen him, spoke to him, anything. But I think he's a circuit overseer or something in California. And to acknowledge something like that at that time would have taken him down a few pegs. And he wasn't willing to suffer that. So obviously the God that he claims to believe in, he don't believe in. But anyways, moving right along. My mom, she toward the end of her life, she started getting sick. She had congestive heart failure. And at one point, also in 2005, like I had mentioned to you, I had wrote a letter to the society because everyone was concerned about my standing in the organization when they were trying to seek refuge during these horrible hurricanes. And so I wrote a letter to the society to find out what my standing was. And I told them in the letter, I compared growing up one of Jehovah's Witnesses. I said a bullet to the eye would have been less painful. And so they said, we read with interest your letter dated June 19th, wherein you provided some background on your family history and you seek clarification on your standing with Jehovah's Witnesses. In an effort to be of help, we provide the following comments. Anyway, so they go through their whole little spiel. It says, according to your previous letter, you were disfellowshipped and reinstated in the past. However, at no time do you indicate that you have been disfellowshipped again since your reinstatement. Therefore, based on what you have presented, it would appear that you are viewed as an inactive witness. So that is my current standing at this time. And of course, they can't send you a letter without writing a whole bunch of scriptures and there you go, a whole bunch of scriptures and stuff in it. But so that was the first or second time. I've actually wrote them 3 letters. I can't find the first letter that I wrote them. And even my cousin, when he was going to talk to them when he was going to talk to me and the Chester molester, he couldn't find them because, they keep all records up there. They keep records of everything. He said, well, they can't find that letter. So I'm like, well, I wrote it. So they couldn't find the first letter. I can't find mine, just so happened. Then, like I said, at some point in time, I'm actually in 95, September 25th, 1995, I moved to Dallas-Fort Worth area because with my job. Then in 2005, May of 2005, I moved back to the Houston area with my job at that time. And then I turned around, came back at the end of 2005, back to the Dallas-Fort Worth area. So, but I would say I was through really through with the religion in 95. I was pretty much done. I may have went to a memorial, maybe, I don't know. I remember one of my relatives asking if I made it to the memorial, and my mom was like, no, she didn't. And they was like, oh, she's really gone if she didn't get to the memorial. And that's pretty much it. That's true. You don't even try to go to the memorial, you're done. But I didn't go to the memorial. Anyway, I didn't do anything. And so, but I was done with them then. And this is the part where all my family and friends in the organization, they don't get. I never said one bad word about their religion, the organization, watchtower, whatever you want to call it. I never said one bad word about them. I always considered it to just have been my experience. It wasn't a good one. It was my experience, but I never said anything to anybody else that it was bad. It's considered to be my experience. The only thing that I did do was when people said, "Oh, they don't believe in Jesus," I would say, "No, they do believe in Jesus. That they do believe in." So that would be the only thing I would say, yay or nay, as far as Jehovah's Witnesses was concerned. But when I tell you, I had an extremely deep, visceral hate about religion, and this religion in particular. I wouldn't even touch a Bible. I threw all they stuff out of my house, everything. I didn't have nothing, threw it all out. Every piece of it, threw it out. My one of my worldly relatives, she tried to talk to me about going to church. Couldn't talk to me about nobody's church or nothing else. And it had extremely visceral hate, but I never said one negative word about Jehovah's Witnesses. Never said one. Until
can you pause real quick?
Okay.
I just want you to explain that the story where your relatives were coming up. The reason why you had to write that letter to figure out your status.
Oh, okay.
Because it just shows the mindset that these guys have. So I just want you to tell that story real quick.
Oh, okay. But yeah, let me go back to the 2005 and why I wrote this first letter to the society to find out my standing. At the time, Hurricane Katrina had just hit Louisiana real bad, and it was back-to-back Hurricane Rita was on her way in. I think it was Hurricane Rita. I think it was. But anyway, so everybody, after the way Katrina had done Louisiana, everybody in Texas was being really, really cautious, trying to get out away from the anywhere close to the water. They're trying to head north. It was so bad that the state of Texas had turned off I-45, all the lanes. They had counterflowed them and had them going north. Everything was going north. So you literally had witnesses who had been on the freeway for, literally a whole day, 24 plus hours, sitting on the freeway trying to seek refuge. They get to north of Dallas, where my mom and my aunt at the time are living. And they're worried about, well, we can stay at Viola's, but what is Annette's standing? What is my standing in the organization? You trying to seek refuge from a storm, and you worried about my standing where I pay bills? But anyway, yeah, that was crazy. How can you be concerned about someone standing and all you're trying to do is seek refuge? Now, if I'm just Joe Blow stranger, you would stay with Joe Blow stranger because you're more worried about my standing, as a witness, and my mama is a witness, but you're worried about my standing. I thought that was the craziest thing. I'm like, they could have stayed outside for all I care. It wouldn't make me no difference. How could you, the stuff is just crazy. You would actually put your well-being on the line, your comfort on the line, because you're worried about whether or not I believe what you believe. If I'm going to the same place of worship that you believe in, but that's what they did. That was crazy to me. So that was the first letter I wrote to the society. But then that's when I was done with them in 95. And like I said, I was done with them. I decided, I'm not going to, it's my experience. I'm not going to tell anybody my bad experiences may be for, for someone else. Then I had my daughter, and I got to a point where I was like, okay, when I tell you, I taught my daughter nothing. Any little bit of religion that she kind of knew about, she got from my mom, but I taught her zero. And I realized how little she knew as far as the Bible. When she was with them, I had took her to her church, and the little kids, I think it was Easter or something, and all the little kids, they're answering the questions. They know all the questions, about the story of Jesus and Easter and all that stuff. And my baby didn't know nothing, but that's okay. So I asked her when I think she was like 15. I asked her, I said, mommy didn't teach you anything about the Bible. And that was because of my own reasons, and I didn't go into a whole lot of detail or whatever. But I said, would you mind studying with Jehovah's Witnesses just so you can learn something about the Bible? I wanted them to study with her in my book of Bible stories, because I just wanted to give her some type of knowledge of Christianity, not necessarily a belief system or an indoctrination or anything like that. Just so she would have some type of knowledge, general knowledge of what is in that book. Now, a whole nother video about whether or not I believe in the Bible, because I don't. That's a whole nother video. But as far as, her having some type of just knowledge of what that book says, even what the Quran says, just having a knowledge of what these books say, and if whatever path you choose to believe, that's on you. But this is why I don't believe, and don't let me be your litmus test for why you don't believe in it. So she said, okay, she did. But they were trying to convert her. You know how that goes. But meanwhile, while she was studying, she started studying with this sister, and the sister passed away. Then her daughter started studying with Victoria, and the daughter got disfellowshipped. Then she started studying with another sister. And so she's studying with this sister. And, here we go. Side story. Let's look at people's histories. My mother's first marriage to her first husband was extremely abusive. So for me, my mother taught her last two children, me and my sister, who she raised in this religion, don't let no man hit you. If he tries to hit you, you try to pick up something and knock him dead, and I'll get you a lawyer. And that is what my mother taught me. Now, what the witnesses want to say about that don't even matter, because it wasn't them who lived her life. My mother taught us the way she knew how to teach us. And being Black women, single women, I'm not letting nobody go upside my head, period. And I raised my daughter as such. So when she's studying with the latest sister that she was studying with, they got to a part about domestic violence, I guess, in a marriage, or the only reasons why you can get a divorce is for infidelity. And my daughter asked them, well, what if your husband, hits on you? And they were like, no, that's not, reason for a divorce. My daughter, she came to me and she was like, Mommy, if you don't mind, I don't want to study with them people no more. And I asked her why. And she was like, because they said that, if you got a husband who's hitting on you, you really don't get, that's not a reason to divorce. Well, what could I say? What could I say? Because you got Stephen Lett. It was a video of him talking about a sister being in an abusive marriage and her conduct could win him over or something. Well, if he ain't going upside your head every other Friday, then of course, you can stick to it. What religion is going to sit here and tell you it's okay to stay with an abusive husband? My first thing is self-preservation, all about mine. I'm not finna be getting hit on by nobody. But that was it for my daughter. And she was 15, 16 years old. So my mom think, well, she's just doing it because you said it. And she was like, no, Granny, because you had to deal with that, and I shouldn't have to deal with that. And so my mom was trying to, because she wanted her to study. And I'm like, Victoria's like, no, Granny, because I know what you told me and I know what you told mommy, and that's not okay, because it makes no sense that a woman will leave herself in a situation to where she's harmed on a regular basis trying to win somebody over, in the end. Just makes no sense. If he changed, let it be between him and the Lord. But for right now, I gotta go. And so my daughter, she was done. She stopped studying immediately for that one point. And I'm so proud of her, by the way. So proud of you, little girl. So mama, so proud of you. But anyway, moving right along. So my baby, she stopped studying with him. And then when I became awake, like I said, I was done in 95. I was awake in 2020. A little side point, I've always loved true crime. And so one time I saw some episode of some true crime story, and it was about some Chester molester out of California who happened to have been an elder in one of the congregations. He was a molester, and he was on the run or whatever. And so I didn't even really mention it to my mom or anything, because I realized bad people can get into anything. And of course, the police was looking for him because in my mind, obviously, the elders had turned him in, and that's why he was on the run. And, so I didn't even think anything of it. Well, here I am on YouTube and run across this BBC documentary or some kind of special or whatever about the witnesses and the CSA problem. And I started watching it because it said Jehovah's Witnesses, and I'm like, how did that come up in my algorithm? I don't watch nothing about Jehovah's Witnesses, but it came up in my algorithm. They must, how the new this technology is. They hear you say something and they pop up. And so I watched it, and I'm looking at it, and she's talking about they needed a second witness and all the stuff. I mean, I was just like, oh my God. I couldn't believe, is this real? Is this true? And I think she mentioned the ARC, and I was just dumbfounded. I could not believe that this was true. I'm just like, but everybody can't tell the same lie. One person can lie, another person can lie, but everybody can't tell the same lie. I was like, okay, boom. You know how that happens. Once you hit one thing, the YouTube algorithm and the rabbit hole you descend into. And oh my God, this religion is foul. It's foul. It is foul as F. And we all know what F is if you know anything about pop culture, what the F stand for. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, okay, let me go back. Let me make sure I'm not looking like, not me. I ain't even been to the Kingdom Hall and I don't know when. Didn't even know anything hardly about JW.org. And I'm like, okay, let me, the Australian Royal Commission. I watched that and I see Jeffrey Jackson straight up lying. I mean, straight up lying about his role in the organization. It's straight up lying about presuming that God is the only one that talks to them or they're the only true religion, whatever. The dude is just lying. And I'm just like, I know I'm not crazy. Let me find a transcript. Maybe it's a transcript somewhere. I read the transcript. Dude is lying. So then I search I'm like, let me just kind of Google and see the court dockets. I'm finding all these court dockets with Jehovah's Witnesses, against certain people. I mean, they all over the court dockets. And I'm just like, my mom, when she was building her home, a sister's husband who wasn't a baptized witness had scammed her for a large amount of money in the process of building her house. And she wouldn't sue him to get her money back or to even get a settlement or anything. She wouldn't sue him. Because, why? Why, Justin? You can answer the question, Justin. Why did my mama not sue for her money? Okay.
Because he's a Jehovah's Witness. You can't sue another witness. And
because
so many people. Mm-hmm.
Okay. And so, but meanwhile, they got cases all over these court dockets in New York. Okay. And of course, like I said, once you fall into the YouTube algorithm, shout out to JT and Lady C, shout out to Lloyd Evans, shout out to Kim and Mikey, shout out to Alt Worldly Jake, even, and your channel, Justin, is the first channel that I watched from day one. I'm a day one XJW Diary girl, day one. And I'm just like, all the stuff you find out as you descend into the rabbit hole, and you get different perspectives from different creators. And what I got from this is one of the things that I got out of JT's channel, JT and Lady C's channel. I remember as a kid, we used to kick the Astrodome out of Houston. We used to go and you used to clean the seats at the Astrodome to be able to use it for the summer conventions, the big is a district conventions, I guess that's what they were. We would clean the seats so we could go there and use the either the Astrodome or the Astro Arena at the time. We cleaned those seats. And I remember all the time, whenever they have the announcements, and they would always say, well, we're running short, and they give us all these different numbers and everything, and we're running short. And I will never forget asking Mom, well, how are we running short? And we be up there cleaning these seats. And I mean, if anybody's ever been to the Astrodome, especially the Houston folks, they know them seats, it's seats all over. The Astrodome is not, it's been since torn down. But I mean, we talking about seats all the way up to the ceiling. And we up there cleaning them doggone seats rather. And then we're still running. I said, Mom, I thought we cleaned the seats so that we could have the place for free. Because I can count money even when I was a kid to know that if we're doing something for free, we're supposed to be getting something in exchange. And my mom was like, well, you don't know everything that the society has arrangements for it, so you shouldn't ask questions. But, I just trying to figure out what was going on. But anyway, I remember that in my mind. But then after watching JT's channel and finding out that, it's a price on each one of our heads. So we got to, they got to make so much money for each one of us. That's why we're in a deficit. Okay. And I remember my mama with her single parent self reaching deep in her pockets and putting more money in the contribution box. I remember, well, y'all should put some of y'all allowance into the contribution box. I try to put that little dollar bill roll up like it was a bunch of money. And why am I gonna try to give them my $10? And knowing now all the money they got, I'm glad I didn't. But anyway, so Polo girl Sophia up and giving up her ice cream money. That's a side point. But anyway, so that's what I got out of JT's channel. And then Kim and Mikey, man, I tell you, they be going all up into the underwebs of it all, getting the financials and getting the tax documents and finding out, that Anthony Morris, he got 2 cribs in North Carolina, that the society done bought him, yet they turned all those brothers loose with no money. But they paying him to shut up. They paying, old Morris to shut up, and your channel. And this is what I got from you, Justin, because the thing is, whenever I think of cult for me, I think Jonestown, where they drunk the Kool-Aid, this documentaries for those youngins out there who don't know. Y'all go back and look at Jonestown Massacre. Y'all go look it up. The Heaven's Gate cult, youngins go and look it up. The Branch Davidians, youngins go look it up. I remember those things. And that's what when you think of cult, that's what you think of. And I was introduced to the bite model by Stephen Hassan on your channel. And I literally had a fall down in my chair. Oh my God, I can't believe I was in a cult moment. And you feel dumb, but it was something I never fully believed. But you feel kind of taken. You feel kind of bamboozled and hoodwinked, I don't know how you felt, but that's how I felt. So I kind of processed through that. But I got to your channel after I wrote my letter to to the watchtower, right? So here goes. I didn't even, by the end, I didn't even trust the buzzards. Wait, before I forget, I gotta tell you, right? This is what I did. When I saw all this stuff about these child molesters, what do? I get on the phone. I call New York. Now, I don't know about y'all, but everywhere I've ever called, when I speak to someone, may I get your name, please? So I can refer to them by their name. They don't even want to give you a name. Why? What is so nefarious about saying my name is Susie, my name is Mary? They don't even want to give you a name. That right there is shady right there. So I told her I had just saw this thing about these child molesters and the ARC and, you know, the court doc. I mean, the stuff I just found overnight. I literally stayed up overnight looking at all this stuff. And right off the bat, before she even transferred me to the service department, without saying, hold on, she said, well, we have a magazine, Watchtower Magazine, Study Edition, May of 2019, I believe it was. That right there, ring, 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 ring. If I tell you the bells, the alarms, the whistles, the sirens was going off, if you can tell me right off the rip about a magazine, about CSA, that means I'm not the first call. That means you get that call frequently. That means you got a problem. Off the rip, she was able to give me that information. Then she transferred me to the service desk where they don't want to give you a name. And, well, we're so sorry, that you feel this way. And man, I ain't feeling nothing. I'm reading something. You're not going to gaslight me like I'm not seeing what I'm seeing. This stuff is real. We do have the article in May 2019 CSA. So what do? I said, let me go see what they said. Well, when you're awake, you read that article so much. You read the thing, the whole magazine, you read it differently than when your mind is fully indoctrinated with a bunch of hogwash. And I never forget they used the word, we endeavor to follow the laws of the land. We endeavor. Well, that don't mean we do. That just means we try. And at the same time that I read the article, it was these two elders out of Chicago. Two old dudes. I can't remember their names off the top of my head. But they were out of Chicago where they failed to report. And for 12 years, that child suffered under that molester. And then she filed and she turned her molester in. And then those two elders, they had to go to court, got in trouble. I don't even know if Watchtower paid for their lawyer, And the people that were supporting the elders, the poor elders, they didn't even know who they initially talked to when they called New York, because they don't even get a name. They don't even get nobody's name. So you don't put yourself on the line talking to somebody out of state. You don't know if they're a lawyer, a paralegal, dog catcher. You don't know what they are. And they're telling you, nah, you don't have to report it. But yet, in their very minds, they're not thinking we're not protecting other children. They're not even thinking that we're not protecting other children. What killed me, Justin, everybody that I told who is actual practicing Jehovah's Witness, even my sister, who's not, she's what we call a pony, physically out, but mentally very in. This is what they all told me. Other religions got molesters. As if that was the magic words to say to me. I'm like, well, then that means your religion is no different than any other religion. You're just like every other religion in that regard. As a matter of fact, I would consider you to be worse because of the the committee process of what they put the child through. I mean, and if the predator says, "Hey, I didn't do it," then that poor child got to stare and look at that predator another 2-3 times a week. So I consider at least the Catholic Church to move them to another parish. But still, at no point in time are they thinking about the children who are still affected by the predator. Doesn't even cross their mind. Doesn't even cross their mind. You know, why would the true God have to protect his name or vindicate his name on the backs of the innocent little enemies of God? That's why, in my opinion, Stephen Lett considers them enemies of God, because they're inconvenient truth that this religion has had to deal with as of recently, of not reporting molestation. But it is unbelievable and unfathomable in my mind that an all-powerful being would have to, protect his name on the backs of innocent children. It makes no sense. But I cannot seem to break through the wall of absolute petrified BS that's in my family and friends' heads when it comes down to just that point alone. To me, that would be enough. We're not even talking about all the other foul stuff as far as being in the United Nations for all those years when they taught us, the United Nations was the wild beast or whatever they taught us about the United Nations. I don't even get off into the doctrine part of it, Justin, for the simple fact of the doctrine change every other Friday. The pure, what was believed in 75, 74 is not even remotely the same today. And of course, the internet just makes it easy for them to try to scrub their history. But anyways, in 2020, that's when my eyes opened. I realized, okay, let me see, let me call them. I called them, they ain't getting no answer. Then I wrote them a letter, wrote them a nice long 6-page letter, asked them about Greenlees, because Greenlees, he had his issues as far as being a witness or whatever, and his little orientation. As long you want to be gay, just be gay with consenting adults. But because I didn't even trust him, I sent the letter certified mail. I sent it certified mail to him because I didn't even believe these buzzards would even pretend they might lose the letter again. So I sent it to him certified mail. But I sent them, my letter was dated November 23rd, 2021. They did not respond to my letter until January the 12th, 2022. January the 12th, I don't know if y'all can see this. I know it's probably backwards, but that's when they responded to my letter that I wrote in November. And this, you see the whole letter could virtually fit in this little bitty screen. Okay. I wrote them a 6-page letter asking a whole lot of questions. And they just says, "Thank you for your letter dated November 23rd. We apologize for our unusually long delay in responding. It is evident you are deeply concerned about the well-being of minors, and you desire that those who profess to serve Jehovah adhere to his guidance." 3 scriptures. And then it says, if you have not done so already, we suggest you review the document Jehovah's Witnesses Scripturally Based Position on Child Protection, which can be found on JW.org by following the pathway Newsroom, Legal Developments, Legal Resources. In addition, if you would like arrangements, we can make arrangements for 2 elders to speak with you further regarding your questions. As you patiently wait on Jehovah to resolve all matters, we encourage you to continue to remain busy and active in Jehovah's service. Now more than ever before in human history, there is a need for all servants of Jehovah to avoid distractions and keep on watch. Please do not allow the unfortunate concerns you described in your letter to rob you of your peace or unduly trouble you, but rather have confidence in the head of the Christian congregation and his ability to resolve these matters in due time. Please rest assured that Jehovah loves and cares for the well-being of you and your family. We extend an expression of our warm Christian love and best wishes, your brothers. Unfortunate concerns are what the children are now. They are the unfortunate concerns. But that was the letter that they sent to me after I sent them a 6-page letter. asking them all types of questions, and they didn't answer not one question that I posed. I asked them about green leaves. I asked them about settlements. I asked them about, what is, the two witness rule, all of that. I even asked them about the scripture. Why is it the two witness rules applies? I'm sorry, I'm putting this back in here. I asked them why the two witness rule applies, but the scripture that's a few scriptures down about if a woman screams when like for in the case of grape, you gotta say grape on YouTube. In the case of grape and a woman screams, why doesn't that apply? Why does a child need a witness? All those questions I asked. And they didn't even try to explain not one of them. Not one. They didn't try to answer not one question. It took forever to not answer any of them. I was done. I was fully awake. I was done. I had showed my mom the letter I wrote. I showed her the letter that they sent me in response. And I told her, I said, don't even remotely think I would cross my foot into another Kingdom Hall without clarity. I said, there's no way. At that time when I found out, I said, I wouldn't put my foot up in one of them buildings. How you gonna sit up here and tell me, and especially now having a child, that a child would be an unfortunate concern when it comes down to a predator? If I remember your interview with Jerron, and Jerron was saying how at one point he was really, really, really ready to get back in, and he was fully committed to the cause. And the elder was like, kind of had something against him, didn't let him back in. And so he kind of just faked the funk, got back in, and all of a sudden Jehovah's Spirit said he was ready, right? Predators are deceiving, cunning individuals. Most of them, they say, can't be rehabilitated. I don't know. That I ain't all off into that part of it. But I do know they are very cunning individuals. Why would I think 3 elders who with no background in something like that would be able to tell if a predator didn't do it? If he did do it, he's sorry that he did it. He repenting about it. And then you ain't even telling him to go get some help. Why would I think that? Why would I trust their discernment over mine, over for my child? And here I am thinking maybe brother so-and-so, and in one case, a sister so-and-so would be okay for my child to be around. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Unless you're the elders in Delaware who had to go and get training, a couple of day training for something like that. Or now the elders in Pennsylvania having to get all the records subpoenaed, and all I could do is tell my cousin, look, you better tell your son-in-law if, he gonna sit in on one of them committee meetings, he best gets him some legal representation. Or if he calls New York, make sure he's talking to a lawyer, because, whoever you're talking to has to know law in Texas. Make sure they're a Texas attorney. Have them refer you to somebody in Texas before you sit up here and be making a decision on something that they're basically trying to throw them under the bus for. Justin, like I said, I know you see all the founders. You done probably went down the rabbit hole a couple of times. It's just really, it just amazes me to think that my mental health or my well-being was never the priority. Growing up, when you can say children can be shunned, you're holding me, a child, to a standard, that Jesus didn't even commit to until he was 33. If you believe in the Bible and Jesus was a perfect man, he didn't even get baptized and he was 33 years old. But my little dumb 18-year-old ass can figure it out. I'm supposed to hold myself to a standard where I have to deny my body and my feelings and emotions and thoughts and all that. I can deny all of that at 18. But a perfect man didn't do it until he was 33. And even he had a hard time when he was dealing with Satan. If you believe in all what said in the Bible, why are you holding me to the same standard as you hold a perfect man? A perfect man. And he was dealing with an outside individual. He wasn't even dealing with his just his body and his emotions and all the things that go with being a human. I'm just trying to fight my little regular desires to want to get some. You know, it's just crazy, just crazy.
Yeah, that's a very good point. Very, very good point. So one last question for you. What advice would you give to people who are in the process of waking up, in the process of questioning things, even people who are physically out but mentally in, but for sure the people who are going through this process of starting to question things? What advice would you have for them?
The best advice I would have for them is, what can anybody do to you? There is no man on this planet that can do anything to you. Why would any group of people be able to tell you what you can and cannot read? You know, if you really believe what you believe in, how is anything that you read, you know, now I'm not even talking about from an apostate source. Why would anything that you would read change your mind? Like I said, court documents, it's like I told them in my letter, court transcripts and court dockets are not apostate material. They're just a matter of record. You know, and if you went to court and I'm reading what you said in court, because you remember David Splain gave that little talk about apostasy, talking about, you know, well, these things you might not want to have come out in a courtroom. Well, but when you go to court, you try to put your best foot forward because you're trying to win. You know, it's a fact that they held out their little molester records and was racking up fines every day. That's a matter of fact. That's a matter of fact. You can look at it. You know, I'm not sitting up here trying to make you believe or do what I believe, say or do what I believe. I'm not trying to get you to follow me. I'm just trying to get you to wake up. You know, if we're going to talk about an apostate, Charles Taze Russell was the first one because he didn't believe what he was being told. So what did he do? If we're going to talk about an apostate and having people follow them, the very guy who originated this religion was an apostate. That's a fact based on their definition. That's what he was. You know, then he pumps out all this bull crap, you know, as far as I'll say it as the way Mikey says it, babble crap. You know, he put all this stuff, and all the stuff now that they've ever wrote, you can't even go back and refer to it because it's considered apostate material. You know, or the fact about disfellowshipping. If disfellowshipping was based in a pagan practice, which they wrote in their own material, I think it was in 1944, a 1944 Awake magazine, where they said their own stuff. They said it was based in pagan origins. They gave the same scriptures or some scriptures to justify why it was not the thing to do. So now it's not. Has the origins changed? Is it now not pagan? Wait a second. Who said pagan was bad anyway? But if it was pagan and pagan is bad, you know, why did it change? What changed? Because I know the pagan roots couldn't have changed because they changed the Bible. We know they changed the Bible. We know the meaning changes whenever they get together and want to have a different understanding of it. But basically, the pagan roots should have stayed the same. Did they not research it right then? Was they wrong then or are they wrong now? You know, even the beard thing, the way they talk, the way Stephen Lett, oh my God, Stephen Lett, the way he sounds just irritates me. You know, we feel the need to clarify. What are you clarifying? You're changing the rules, man, because the rule was no beards. That was the rule. So what are you clarifying? You know, the way the language that they use, you have to really kind of serpent within the words, because even if you read the article about the CSA issue in the May 2019, go back and read it and read them words. Words have meaning. They truly do. You know, words have meaning, and endeavor does not mean that's what you do. That means you try. And then I've always thought that the elders were not part of a clergy class. I thought that's what they always taught us. They were not part of a clergy class. And that's the very rule that they try to use, clergy pendant privilege, when they go to court for not reporting. They don't even have a confession. They don't even have a confession process, like the Catholic Church does. But they lay back and let the Catholic Church fight, they fight. That's what they do. And if the Catholic Church got smart, put your name right here next to ours, so we fighting this together. But they got the Catholic Church out there running the battle for them, and they just laying back in the cut like, we're innocent. We don't have this problem. But yet, Mark O'Donnell, shout out to you too, using the same lawyers, the same law firm that the Catholic Church had to use, because their problem is just that bad. They up there routing that money. They routing that money, trying to get. Why do you think they're begging y'all every other Friday for some money with a video? They used to beg for money like this. They got to pay out these. They pay out these settlements. What do they think Candace Conti? Candace Conti got awarded $30 million on the books, if that's what she was awarded, but they had to litigate it down, or however they litigated it out of the space. $30 million. So even if she got a couple of million, that came from somewhere. All the people they paying off behind the scenes, that money got to come from somewhere. We know in secret, thanks, shout out Kim and Mikey, we know they asking for lawyers. We know that, because them lawyers ain't cheap. They having to pay these fines because they try to hold on to their molester records. All this stuff is a matter of fact. And the elder people, at least the elders behind the scenes, they know that they're asking for lawyers. They know that the Shepherd the Flock book done changed as far as the molester policies. They know that because they got that stuff behind the scenes. They know that now it costs about $10 for the average rank and file witness, or how many publishers you got. You're not reporting time anymore because they just want you to check that box, because they want to say, oh, well, y'all had 100 people check the box and said that they were publishers this month, so y'all should be sending us this much money this month. Thanks, shout out to Kim and Mikey for the price per head policy. Charles Hash Russell said, if it came down to a day where we had to ask for money, it'd be time for us to shut down. So no, they don't sit there and ask you for money, but they tell the elders behind the scenes, okay, you go and put forth a thing to the congregation, a proposal before the congregation that we're going to send this amount of money to the society. They telling you to do it. They ain't asking you, because they can't ask for money. So they telling you, go out there and ask for some money this way. This is how we're going to do it. The Kingdom Halls that you built, you put your blood, sweat, and tears into, that you had to borrow money from them for, pay them interest on, and then turn around and they get the deed back for it. It is, as Mikey say, a scam and a racket. Simple as that. I am not saying what way you should serve God, if you shouldn't serve God. I'm not saying any of that. I'm simply saying, know where you are putting your trust. Know what they're doing with your money. Why can't you call your organization in New York and just as much as get a name to see who you're speaking with? The God of you must go and confess. And, if you did something wrong, you got to go before the elders and tell what you did, so that, Jehovah's Spirit can be over the organization. Why won't they tell the average rank and file witness what's going on? Why won't they put on JW.org to the average rank and file witness, we lost our shit. We lost our stuff in Norway. We lost it. We're having this issue in Japan with abuse. We're having this is why we got this thing with the EU, because we got this issue. Why don't they just tell them? Why won't they just tell them? The half truths, the slippery, what's the word? The evasive and manipulative wording of the stuff you see on JW.org. Do you shun? Yes. Why you gotta lie about it? Even the video of the lawyer in Canada describing what it's like to be disfellowshipped. The average witness know. I mean, the littlest of witnesses knows that was a half truth, and as my mama say, which was a whole lie. That was a whole lie. The sit there and say, well, they can come in, they can sit wherever they want. Yeah, all of what he said was true, but it wasn't the whole truth. It was not the whole truth of the matter. The whole truth of the matter is the average rank and file witness, once they're disfellowshipped, it's it. It's a wrap. You don't get to communicate. Only if you in the house with them do you get to communicate with them, if you actually in the house. But if the average rank and file witness, if your son or your daughter or your grandchild, gets disfellowship, guess what? All communication cuts off. But guess what they'll have you do? When you need $1, well, did you ask your family? How about that shunned person, that disfellowship person that you ain't talking to? Go talk to them. I never forget when I was talking to, it was two of my friends. We went out to lunch. We went to the same Kingdom Hall growing up. And she was like, when her grandmother died, they were coming to her asking her for money. She was like, well, what about my disfellowship money? You seem to always want that. They talk then when they need some money. The demographics don't lie. This is the least paid, most undereducated group of people, as far as religion is concerned, because they shun higher education. Hell, Charles Taze Russell was against high school. He was against high school. That's a fact. He wrote it. Is it the fact of people learning how to think critically? XJW critical thinker. People learning how to think critically about what they're being told. Is that what the problem is? Learning about, Rutherford and his hostile takeover, how he was living, but that was old light. And you know what new light do, Justin? New light is just the green light to do the new thing. That's what new light is. New light is a green light. But I look at it like this. Y'all just get off the new light, get off the red light, and get on your own light. Get on your own light. Get into the sun. Because this religion, it ain't it. It's not it. Do something different. Research and find out for your own self. And, I can see why the average witness, not the average, I won't say that, but I can see why some ex-witnesses are atheists. Because I had a smidgen of a period where I'm just like, okay, I don't even believe in God. That was a little smidgen of a period. But I do believe in a higher power, in a higher spirit, in a higher universe. I do believe in that. But the Bible, no, that's not for me. But to each his own. I pray that this interview, me telling my family dysfunction, wait a second. I forgot to tell y'all this. My mother passed away July 25th, 2023. And my mother didn't want a funeral. Thank God. She didn't want a funeral. She didn't want the whole who shot Josh. She didn't want all that. And so I was like, okay, Mama, I said, this is what I want to do. I said, I'll do a little card, with some pictures, hand it out to family and friends. I love magnolias. My favorite flower is magnolia. So I'll plant a magnolia tree and we'll bury your ashes with the magnolia tree here at home. And that's what we did when she passed. And so, of course, I told my mom's sister, my aunt, and, she was hurt. The two people it was the hardest to tell was my mom. Well, it was my mom's sister and my baby. Those two people cried like children. Like infants when I told them about my mother's passing. It was hard for me. My sister and my mom. My sister, like I said, who is Pomi, hadn't talked to my mom in probably 15 years. When I told her mother was on hospice, she wouldn't even come to see her when she was on hospice. She came to the memorial service that we had at the house for her, but she was like, well, me and mother made our peace. She would not come to see mother, even though she wasn't even conscious in her last, few days. consciously alert, rather, I'll say, in her last few days. She wouldn't come and see her. But then when my mother passed, now when my aunt, I can't say her name, when my aunt's husband passed, my uncle had, after many, many years, he became a witness. And so when he passed, I took the time, and for each one of her children, even Chester, molester cousin, I picked a card, wrote, I even looked for scriptures to put in their cards, because I don't even remember half of those scriptures. I looked for scriptures to put a different scripture in each card for each one of her children. And I put all the cards in a priority envelope and sent it to her house for each one of her children when their father passed. I even called her daughter when their father passed. When my mother passed, my aunt came to the house, and she just so happened, the Bethelite son had called, and she says, well, here's Annette, express your condolences. So she gave me the phone, and we're really sorry to hear about your mom. She has hope of the resurrection. Okay. Then that was it. It's at least a couple of elders, circuit overseer, pioneer. Now, granted, my cousin, the daughter, she's in the hospital rehabbing and stuff. She has some medical issues going on. But when I tell you, not another soul in that super spiritual family picked up a phone, sent an email, snail mail, nothing, for my mother, who was a witness for 49 years. And please put this in this video. That organization of however many men it is up in New York can kiss my entire black ass if that is the way that they think they're supposed to treat people. You don't treat people like that. It is not okay to not exhibit any type of sympathy or compassion. I have encountered people who have lost family, and I can give them the sincerest of my condolences in the loss of that family member. You can watch the news and see something happen and feel compassion for those people. But yet, my standing in your religion will determine whether or not you can exhibit any type of compassion or sympathy. If that tells me anything, it lets me know that's not the religion for me. And everybody who I encounter, I'm going to let them know just how I was treated. This is what this religion has done for my family. At best, I got my daughter, me and my sister have a somewhat fragile relationship that we're trying to redevelop. But when you make it so easy to cut off family, to cut off friends, because we just don't think the same anymore. We have, you meet people and you're on the same place and you go on different paths, but we just, you can cut them off because, you don't believe the way I believe, and I can cut you off. And that's exactly what my sister did to my mother. She cut her off. And granted, like I said, my mother had her ways, but I never cut her off. I never cut her off. I have friends who have had friends since they were in elementary school. They've grown up with them. They've grown with their divorces and their marriages and their children and their grandchildren. They've known these people for life, and they still are connected. Jehovah's Witnesses, they take that from you. You can't even develop really school relationships. Most witness kids, what do? They homeschool, isolate. You can't, they don't want you to develop healthy friendships, healthy relationships, healthy connections with people. They regulate and control your behavior, even in the privacy of your bedroom with your husband. Because think about it. They tell you what type of sexes you can and can't have. The bee and bite is big time. the behavior in the bite model, the behavior, the it's crazy. I envy my friends who have had friends from childhood, because the friends I knew from childhood, I don't even know where they are. If they're even in the religion, and if they are, I know they wouldn't talk to me at this point. They take so much. They isolate you from living. You know, the world is the world is the world is the world is the world. It's, you know, there's good and bad people wherever corner of the earth you're in. It's good and bad people everywhere. And the same way that you would have to get out in it as a witness is the same way a Baptist, a Catholic, a Protestant, you know, the same way everybody would have to get into this world and go out there and make their own mark in it. You know, to sit there and demonize a whole world of people outside of the few 8 million, you know, that are witnesses. No, this is just not the way. This is not the way. If you believe in a God, that this is how he will want people to be or to operate. You know, I mean, I'm just gonna say I'm enjoying my life where it's at. I miss my mother dearly. I truly do. I miss her. You know, we didn't agree as far as her religion, but I miss that old girl. You know, talking to her, fussing with her, whatever. I miss her. And it pains me that if there is an afterlife and if there is something that she could hear that I'm saying, I hope that she can see what I was trying to tell her. You know, and I'm so glad they did not steal from her the relationship with her granddaughter. I feel so sorry for Barbara Anderson, you know, for her to have lived something and believed in something for so long and to be denied her children and her grandchildren. It breaks my heart for her. You know, it's just sad. And a religion should not be that way. It should not cut you off, at least from your family. God, the Creator, instituted family. If you believe in the Bible, he created family. Simple as that. And family in all of its dysfunction, as Cain killed Abel, but it's still your family. You know, how do you cut people off just because you don't believe what I believe? You know, oh, your favorite color is green. We can't talk anymore because your favorite color is green. My favorite color is blue. So, you know, we can cut each other off now. It's not normal. It's just not normal. You know, I would encourage people to, you know, look at your videos. EXJW Critical Thinker, Lloyd Evans, Kim and Mikey, Altworldly, XJW MJ, was it Ryan Cultastic? All these guys, these different creators that bring so many different aspects of what this religion has done to different people and how it affected their family and their lives. But everybody got the same, we ain't telling the same lie. It's always a story of, I've been cut off from my family. And it's only really to the extent of your believing family, as far as how far they believe. Because my mama just, you know, before she passed, you know, because I told her, I said, Mama, you always forced it on me. And maybe if she hadn't forced it, maybe I would have took to it. But it just, you know, it didn't feel right. But, you know, she said, well, because she always, in the end, she said that, you know, it's my fault that you didn't believe because I forced it on you. And I mean, had she not, if I found out all the stuff I found out now, I'd have been out anyways. I cannot abide by a religion that says you need 2 witnesses to prove CSA. I just can't be with that. I can't be with a religion that tries to even hide it, that it's a problem. You know, I mean, they hide, and then they use the label of spiritual warfare. No, man, this is plain old you in court for some shit. That's what that is. You did something wrong. Somebody, you know, you got to pay the price. There's a punitive price for what you did. You know, this ain't no spiritual warfare. Ain't nothing hard about this. You don't have to lie. God don't ask you to lie. You know, oh, it's okay to lie when it's spiritual warfare. No, this is called money. And whenever you start reaching in people's pockets, they get a whole new understanding. You know, this is what this is about. You know, See my Christmas tree in the back? I'm back. I'm really doing it, people. That's my Christmas tree. See my Santa Clauses right over there? Y'all see Santa's? That's the Santa Claus right there next to that wine thing with the corkscrews in it. Santa, that's Ned. Ned the wino. Good times. But you know, what else can I say, Justin? You got any more questions? You're on mute.
There we go. There we go. No, that was good. That was great. Thank you so much for coming on. Your story, I'm sure, is going to help a lot of people and hopefully wake up some people. I mean, when they see the stuff that's going on, especially the shunning of children, it
was me. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not telling you what somebody else did. I heard this was my experience.
Yeah.
My experience. My attempted suicide. My abortion. My family. This happened to me. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I don't, like I said, the doctrine, I don't get all off into that. That's another channel. You know, I am talking about the actual hurt it does to individuals.
So I hope you guys enjoyed that interview. Thank you so much to Valissia for coming on and sharing your story. I know some of that stuff is not easy to talk about, but thank you so much for coming on and sharing with the hope that it may help somebody else out there. And I'm sure that it will help somebody out there. You know, one of the things that Valissia said after the interview had ended, and I thought was a really, really good point. She talked about the Jeffrey Dahmer documentary that was on Netflix. I think it was pretty popular last year. And she talked about how in that documentary, the father of Jeffrey Dahmer stood by him. He stood by his son after doing all that craziness. I mean, just crazy stuff that he did. But his father still stuck by him. Now compare that to these Jehovah's Witness parents who all their child did was maybe have a little bit too much to drink or have sex before marriage or just decide that they no longer wanted to be a Jehovah's Witness. And in return, their parents shunned them. So it really shows just how much this organization does tear up families. Even though they say that they don't, they really do. Their shunning policy tears up families. And for no good reason. Because just as Valissia brought out, here is a mass serial killer, and his parents can still stand by him. But this organization is telling these parents not to stand by their children if they simply decide that they want to change their beliefs. So thanks again to Valissia for coming on and sharing your story. I really appreciate it. And thanks to all of you for watching. Stay tuned for the next one. Take it easy on yourself. Peace.